What are some signs that a relationship has run its course? If you find that you can only relax and be yourself when they aren't around, crushing you with the weight of their silent judgment and disapproval, it's way past the expiration date. This goes for friendships as well. When you realize she's not your girlfriend anymore, just a shitty roommate. Oh my god, they were roommates. This is the best video clip ever. That stuff never bugged me. I'd have full-on conversations with my ex while she was taking a shit. Not always haha, and neither of us cared. In my head it was all sappy shit, like we are one. We're one soul now, yay. I'm obviously pretty dumb though, also who knows. I enjoyed any time I had with her, whether it was waiting in a line somewhere, talking while she pooped, laying in bed watching TV. I kinda liked it all. May I ask why you guys broke up? She was an armchair. You've bottled your real feelings up so much that now everything they do or say fills you with contempt, lol. Oops. And any attempt to suddenly become more honest will be met with disdain and shock, because your relationship is now predicated on your tendency to bottle things up. Once your relationship acclimates to your lack of vulnerability and honesty, it's too late. Your quiet resentment has become a core ingredient in your relationship. The other person doesn't make a move to bridge the gap because to them, it's probably a crack in a sidewalk, while to you, it's the Grand Canyon. Open, honest, and self-reflexive communication will help. Hey, I feel this way about this thing you did. I understand it probably wasn't your intention to hurt me, but it really bothered me for such and such reasons. It would really help me if you gave me some space or did this or that thing, but if you can't, that's okay. It just will take me some time to get over this. It's important to remember that you having grievances does not entitle you to a change in your friend's behaviors with no change on your part. They might have their own grievances with your behavior, and you have to go into the conversation not afraid of them bringing up things they might want you to change. Best of luck. Been there before, and it's a crappy situation to be in. Basically, if you get to bitch eating crackers stage with your partner, you've held it in too long. When you don't care if she leaves or not. Dealing with this right now. I love her and want to be with her, but she has some mental health issues that she's not willing to get help for. She threatens to leave, and I just say goodbye and walk away. I'm a firm believer of the in sickness and health, but my ex refused to get help. She had a psychiatric nurse friend she trusted tell her she needed some help, but she still refused. It got a little extreme. It was when I caught myself thinking I should check under her pillow to make sure she doesn't have a knife there. Then I realized this was no way to live. I feel badly for my kids. They're adults, and I took a big hit financially, but I still have my sanity and some peace. My ex would throw out the "well, maybe we just aren't meant to be together" all the time when we had arguments. I realized it was over when I'd hear her say that and think to myself, she's right. I've never seen a healthy relationship where a partner makes this kind of remark during an argument. Husband and I have a pact to never say stuff like that when angry. In fact, the conversation started because after we got married we would joke about taking our rings off. Like he rips a nasty fart or tells a bad joke and I'd go, "well, it was nice while it lasted," and start taking my ring off, or vice versa, and something about it didn't sit right with us. So we banished the joke and agreed the topic of divorce was off limits unless we were really serious about it. Now when he's being obnoxious I just say, "Imagine, this is going to be my life, the whole rest of my life." When you turn the corner driving home and feel disappointment when you see her car in the driveway, because you know the minute you step in the door she's going to start crapping on you again. Sometimes I would just drive on by and go sit at a park and read on my phone till I felt ready to go home. That explains all the people just sitting in their cars at my local park. I figured drug deals, but probably married people staying away. FYI to anyone reading through this, a good portion of replies here are also totally normal occurrences in any long-term relationship. There is an ebb and flow to being with someone for many years. Some days you may want to hang out and others where you want to be left alone. Oftentimes you can go several days without having a noteworthy conversation. Just because something like this occurs doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. What it may mean is that you need to put some effort into sparking things back up. I've had the personal experience of finding venomous spiders in my underwear drawer, and it was a telltale sign that I hadn't taken my wife out to dance in a few weeks. After putting in a bit of effort, my wife and I felt like we had just started dating. I no longer had to fear amputation of my nethers. Given that something like half of Redditors are literal teenagers, I take their relationship advice with a barrel of salt. Of course, it might be time to leave if you start acting like an abuse victim, but stuff like it's over when you don't feel dazzled and starry-eyed every single time they walk in the room just makes me think they've never gotten past the honeymoon phase. And the venomous spiders are heavily context dependent. I'm Australian. If I had to leave my partner every time my underwear drawer was full of venomous spiders, I would have a rough time. Several, but off the top of my head, the sight of them does nothing for you. Getting a text or phone call from them elicits an eye roll. You try to avoid them. You cannot hold a conversation with them because everything they say is irritating. You really could not care less about their day or anything they have to say to you. You find yourself fantasizing of a life without them, and it makes you smile. Just to name a few. Are you my narrator? This hit me. Yes to all of this, but I will say, after being with someone for 10 years, some days I don't give a shit how her day was. Lol, I love my wife more than anything, but it's the same shit different day. It depends on how my day went too. Every now and then you'll have a shitty day on the same day. I don't like to talk about my shitty days, she does. My wife has a way of remembering each detail to any conversation or story she wants to tell me about, and delivers each one. Instead of saying, hey, my friend Lucy is pregnant, and she is having a girl, I get the full detail from her pissing on a magic stick to telling her parents about it. Some of her stories are so detailed that they just get boring before she gets to the actual point. She also wants every little tiny detail from me when I tell stories, even if they are irrelevant. My brain just wants the important bits and not the fine detail or backstory. When you start fighting about a lot of meaningless things, in many cases, I'd say it's a manifestation of the hesitation to deal with the quite harsh truth that you no longer feel that you want to be with the person. Having to face the fact that the person you've been so close to, the person you've shaped your future with, the person you sacrificed a lot for, the person you might have introduced to your friends, etc., is really difficult. So it's easier to say that your exasperation with the person is because they didn't do X. When you start fighting about a lot of meaningless things. My soon-to-be ex once started a fight with me about how I sprayed my underarm deodorant on. I had a girl mad at me for not telling her to eat when she was hungry. My biggest blow up with my first girlfriend started about the way I pumped gas into my car. She criticized my every move. There are quite a few signs that a relationship is reaching its end, but the most common are as follows. Conversation has all but entirely stagnated. Many people mistake mutual interest for compatibility, but that inevitably leads to relationships which end once the getting to know you stage is over. If you find yourself struggling to converse with your partner, if you can't just talk about your day, rant to each other, or find new experiences to discuss, then it's likely that you'll end up going your separate ways before too much longer. Spending time with one another feels like a chore. Neither loving someone nor being in love with someone is enough to make a pairing last, especially if one of you feels like they are carrying more emotional weight than the other. If you dread the prospect of spending extended periods of time with your partner, or if you suspect that they have similar reservations about your interactions, it's generally a sign that the relationship is nearing its end. You keep finding venomous spiders in your underwear drawer. While it's true that many arachnids prefer to hide in dark, dry places, they lack the mental wherewithal to effectively inform others of their kind about choice vacation spots. As such, if you continually find spiders attempting to use your unmentionables as a gondola to your nether regions, there's a good chance that your significant other is responsible for their presence. This should be taken as a sign that not all is well between the two of you. Your partner is deviating from their routine without informing or including you. Everyone likes change from time to time, but humans are also creatures of habit. We typically only make large adjustments to our lives when something, or someone, significant has entered the picture, and if you've been kept in the dark about such a development in your partner's life, there's a good chance that they are intentionally withholding something from you. It won't necessarily be that they're cheating, though. They might be altering their commute so that they can make frequent stops at Honest Earl's Discount Fish and Appliance Repair, which, as everyone knows, is the premier place to shop for spiders. In short, there are a number of things that can signal the end of a relationship, but before you jump to any conclusions, it pays to be completely open, mature, and communicative. If nothing else, you'll both come away feeling significantly less hurt, and you'll both be significantly better off in the future. TLDR. 4 common signs of an impending breakup. Is it possible the presence of the venomous spiders are your soul's way of communicating with you? It's possible, yes, but it's excessively unlikely. Let me see if I can explain. Have you ever had one of those dreams wherein you're trying to put an idea out into the world, but you lack the resources with which to effectively do it? For example, maybe you're trying to write someone a letter, but because you don't have access to a musical instrument, you have to try to jam a can of soup into an old VCR. I want you to remember the mental sensation of being in that moment, the frustration, the sense that something undefinable isn't quite right, and the odd feeling of urgency that you probably experienced when you think about communicating via spidergram. See, most folks react in odd ways when we feel like we're being repeatedly misunderstood, to the point where we might attempt some fairly bizarre tactics for getting our points across. When two people are doing this at once, it leads to the sort of fight which starts off with "Why didn't you empty the dishwasher?" and escalates to shouting "No, the dragon wouldn't choose the green banana," with utter seriousness in one's voice. Taken to its extreme, that sort of mentality can absolutely make a person think that the only reasonable course of action is to introduce several black widows to their partner's socks. But the thing is, the mindset tends to dissipate pretty quickly when the two combatants are apart. In other words, if your significant other is attempting to make themselves heard by way of unexpected spiders, then one of 3 things is going on. They are really angry with you, in which case you should be making active efforts to find common ground. They're the sort of person who can hold a grudge for as long as it takes to source and install several deadly arachnids, in which case you probably shouldn't be dating them anyway, or you're dreaming, in which case the spiders will probably try to sell you boat insurance before too long. When all you can think about is how different you are, when you're lying or making excuses to not be with them, when they go on a spring break trip and screw a guy she went to high school with repeatedly for a week. Fuck that last statement. You're both cheating on each other with the same person. Well, I do like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. The nature of the relationship changes. There's nothing as exciting as a new love. There's nothing as comfy as an old love. Don't confuse that change with the end of a relationship. It's when you just don't want to be around them anymore that the end has come. That is well put. It's important to understand that the puppy love phase does not last forever, but just because you aren't feeling that surge of excitement anymore like in the beginning, doesn't mean that it is over. At some point you either grow together or you grow apart. When you catch yourself lying often, when you're hiding who you are around them because you don't want to fight or disappoint them. Oh, and when you won't fuck each other anymore. What if you won't in the first place? Depends on why you don't. When you see spending time with them as a chore and look forward to when your interactions are over. When you realize that your partner will never be willing to put in the work to make the relationship succeed. And if when planning the future, it's not feasible to maintain your relationship while also continuing towards your dreams and end goals. Contempt. I took a marriage and family course in college and their professor said that's one of the biggest signs things are going to / should end. And I've 100% been there. If you no longer want to spend time with them and would rather be doing other things, this makes me wonder if it's still that possible for a couple to remain friends after breaking up. Probably not in that circumstance where you can't stand being around each other, but couples break up for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes you still care about each other but it just isn't going to work for whatever reason and you're both happier just being friends. I think you can still prefer to do other things while not being able to stand them. Sometimes it's just about getting the right doses of a person. There's a voice in your head that says you know it's over. Every time my relationship has been ending I have had this happen. Sometimes you fight it, sometimes you don't. But the voice is always right in the end. When you come home after work and no one is home, and 90% of everything in the house is gone. Happened twice. If it happens a third time it might be you. Nah, same person did it twice. But yeah, it was me, making the mistake of letting her come back. But I know what you mean. While I couldn't pinpoint any one thing that was wrong, I started to get the sense he was annoyed with me. I said something wrong, he didn't want me around, etc. Trust your gut. Even if he's not experiencing anything wrong, you're clearly sensing something, so talk it out. Maybe he is cheating on you. Maybe you have unfounded trust issues. Man, when my husband and I were first dating I would get this sense all the time and he always said nothing was wrong. Later, he'd tell me work was really stressing him out or something specifically happened that day. If your girl keeps asking what's wrong, just tell her. She probably thinks you're getting ready to dump her, and now she has anxiety too. You can't see love coming, but you can see it leaving from a mile away. When spending time is something you have to give effort to actively think about and plan out as opposed to something you look forward to and excitedly long for. I know that's what it was for me. She became a block in my schedule instead of the reason my schedule existed. You used to think their little quirks and habits were adorable. Now they are just annoying AF. When you notice that your partner doesn't miss you, or vice versa, after being separated for a while. If you've been apart for a couple weeks or longer and your partner still feels no particular urgency to see you or talk to you, then the relationship is dead. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Peace.